Hello and welcome on this new release of Xen Orchestra, which is 5.101. And this time it's all about backup and many other things. As usual, we will start to talk about a bit the ecosystem, but that won't be the only thing, as we have many, let's say, secondary features, things like this. So first, let's talk about, I would say, the community and what is happening right now outside Xen Orchestra itself in what we call our ecosystem. So first news that is pretty cool is the fact that at Vates, we are now pushing for getting Rust, the language, as a first-class citizen inside the Xen project. It's pretty nice because, I mean, there is many incentive to move forward and to get that language in such low-level projects in terms of, being close to the metal, to use a language that is safe, that is also trendy. It's a plus to, having more people contributing to the Xen project. So we are not just trying to get it inside the Xen project, but we are also trying to lead and gather every people around to advocate for it and to move forward so we have more Rust inside the Xen project. So if you want to learn more about the details, I won't go into that much level right now, as it's a video about Xen Orchestra, but still you can take a look on the blog post and read more about it. While we are talking about XCP, let's talk about the security updates we have. And as you know, since 8.3 was released already a few months ago, now we have security updates for both 8.2 and 8.3, meaning that our maintainers have to work patches for both. So we want to create the same level, of quality between 8.2 and 8.3. So now you have two different blog posts with all the details and all the updates. So feel free to take a look to get into the details, what's new inside that, and to discover that as any updates we made in the past, it's very stable and mature. Let's talk a bit about the ecosystem that is around what we do, not directly XCP or Xen Orchestra. So as you know, we have a partner program since I think now 1 year and a half, something like this. We are improving that program really, on an almost a monthly basis. We have a partner portal, which is great. There is many news. If you are a partner or you want to become a partner, feel free to take a look on that blog posts, expanding horizon for our partners, because this is really full of interesting stuff for existing partner and future partners if you're interested. Partners are not just people integrating the solution, but there are also technological partners that could be on the bottom or on top of our solution. So meaning precisely that, for example, we could have hardware vendors or we could have software vendors, but we could also have, let's say, a service provider having, hosting services, let's say public cloud solutions, many other things. And those technological providers are more and more interested to work with us. The last we had working with our stack is Exodata. So it's a French hosting provider with many data centers in different parts of France, also overseas. So if you want to learn more about why this partnership is good, and it also helps to spread the use of XCP-ng in Xen Orchestra and to provide people an access to machines that are already in the data center without having everything on-prem, take a look at the blog post to understand all the benefits of this partnership. Let's move on the Red Hat certification. So you might already use Red Hat since a while on top of XCP. It works out of the box. There is no problem. But as we get more traction around, the Vates virtualization management stack, VMS, including XCP and XO, we have now the opportunity to have official certification with big vendors like Red Hat and so on. So we started to certify many versions of Red Hat on top of XCP, and as expected, it works. And you could even see in their catalog that we are listed as a compatible vendor to run their solution as their operating system in a guests on top of our virtualization platform. A small digression about the fact we have many open positions. I tell you that often, but we are growing really fast at Vates, which is really great. It means that clearly Broadcom is providing a huge boost in the way we are working here. The fact that it drives many users, getting outside VMware. This growth is visible. It's generating many new positions in the company. To give you some numbers, we were like, when Broadcom made the first announcement, we were around 20 people, and now we are approaching around 70 people for the end of the year. And it's, I think, pretty obvious we'll probably hit the 100 mark next year. So we are growing a lot. It means we need, more people to work in the company. So we have a dedicated page listing all the jobs that we have. So if you're interested, feel free to contact us directly on our websites. There is a contact form just for that, to see if there's a position that matches what you want to do. We'll do our best to answer you in a timely fashion. The other thing is we already have many people applying, which is wonderful, and that's great. We just need the time to process. So if it's not really fast, I'm sorry in advance. But let's say that we'll take time to review everyone's application to be sure that we are not missing anything. So Vates is growing, which is nice, but it's not just us, it's also our community. And that's something that is truly important for me, and I think also for the entire company. We've been always built something that is just not about us only, but it is about the entire community. So sure, we have a great success with the commercial revenue aspect of getting all those VMware customers switching to our platform. But in the meantime, what I found really great is the fact that we are keeping our core values of being open, truly open source, but not just about open about the code, but it's open about what we are doing, answering people in our community forums and so on. And I think it is paying in the end. All the efforts we are doing are clearly visible in terms of numbers about the impact it has on the community, which is really welcoming to everyone, even people without any technical background and so on. So those numbers are great, and to me it is equally important to have a community success than a commercial success, and both are, I would say, helping each other in the end. So yeah, it's a great achievement, and we're really proud to foster that community. Let's talk to close this thing before talking about Xen Orchestra. As you may remember, we are organizing a Xen Winter meetup. So it's clearly designed for Xen developers or system developers interested in Xen. So it's not for everyone, but I mean, everyone that is able to work on those low-level system things that is interested about the technology is welcome. It will be organized in Grenoble at the end of January. There's still some seats left. So if you're interested, feel free to go on the website events and sign up. It is free. And we'll manage to get all the meals for the breakfast and lunch. So feel free to attend if you can. We'll be happy to discuss about the future of the hypervisor, which is the core engine of our virtualization platform. And also, this is something we are proud to also, as Vates, creating events for the Xen project, demonstrating the fact that we are really pushing not just money, but resources, assistance on the core thing that we use, and we are, deeply involved into. So it's not just using open source, it is contributing back, not just in code, but for everything around. And that's why I think this kind of event is important for us, even if it's not targeting everyone. Maybe in the future, we might have more, let's say, general events where everyone is welcome. That might be the case in the next year, so stay tuned about this. So that was the community and ecosystem review. Now let's talk about Xen Orchestra itself and what we have cooked for you for this month. And we'll start with the backup. on the many improvements we are making on backup. We will start with the long-term backup retention with the GFS strategy. So GFS means grandfather, father, son. It's a way or policy, if you like, to organize your backups. And this feature will be found in the scheduling section, where you could set different let's say, different level of retention for daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly backups. So this way, you can have specific intervals for those retention level for those specific intervals, which is really interesting, meaning you could work on a longer term strategy to store your backups. So obviously, a small warning, this is a feature that is rather new, and even if we are confident about the fact it works pretty well, it's well tested, it's more like that you really understand what it means and being sure that it doesn't, I don't know, remove some backups you have because it might conflict with previous retentions you have and so on. So if you have a doubt about it, feel free to reach out to the support or even the community forums. And for critical backup, do not start with it. Start with, let's say, less critical backup that you could, afford to lose, for example, just to play with the feature. So as any new feature, stay safe and being sure that what you configure is exactly what you expect. It's more that the concern we have is all about this, not about the fact that it's, I would say, rather well tested. So again, stay on the safe side. Just to show you a screenshot about it. Basically, when you go into the job details, you have now the long-term retention panel that is displaying the number of daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly backup you want to keep. So it's pretty simple in terms of UI. And this is really helpful if you want to set it up correctly and have this GFS kind of retention that you could find in other backup products. So this is a pretty cool one. So feel free to test, give us feedback if there is anything that is complex or unclear about it. Feedback is always welcome through support if you are, a professional customer, or through the community forums if you are using the version from the source, where all those features are freely available. Let's move now for another backup features, which is called VTPM backup and restore. So until now, if you restored a VM that had a VTPM backup with it, it would have reinitialized the VTPM chip, which is a virtual TPM. Now it restores the data that you had inside it, meaning if you are storing, I don't know, encryption keys or things like this, they will be restored with the backup. Obviously, a small warning in terms of security, as those data stored in the VTPMs could be critical from a security perspective. Don't forget to be sure that your backup repository is secure, or to use encryption to be sure that the VTPM will be encrypted when saved on the storage repository. For example, if you are using an external S3 provider, like Backblaze or Amazon and so on, you could enable encryption right into Xen Orchestra, so you don't, you are not fearing any leak of important information, because those kind of information will be encrypted directly. So you should really consider this level of security, as if you have really, important secrets stored there, then you might avoid those secrets to be leaked. Still two topics on backups. We have also better backup health check. So remember, that's the really cool feature, which is testing automatically your backups to be sure they are working okay. It didn't work correctly for some specific versions of Windows tools, some specific VM types, where we couldn't get the driver version of the PV driver versions. So instead of using that information, we switched to PV driver detected, which means it's more reliable, more robust, and now the health check will work 100% of the cases. So it's maybe not a major improvement, but this is essential to be sure that your backup are safe. And again, remember that a backup that is not tested is not a backup, because maybe you can think it works, and in the end, maybe it didn't, and it was a silent corruption on the NAS or whatnot. So you need to use that kind of features if you want to be really sure about it. Also, this is a nice improvement. I wouldn't say it's a bug fix, but it's more like using Xen Orchestra a way that is not triggering potential issues with XCP-ng. Right now, we tried to fetch with NBD the disks on multiple machines at once in a pool, and in many cases, we realized it caused some issues, and we've not seen that in our tests, setups, because we have, our own setup, and it really depends on the kind of setup you have. And so anyway, kudos to the community for providing really precise let's say description of the problem in the community forum. It really was, I think, more than helpful to find the problem. It's like the community made half of the work to find the problem. That wasn't a bug, but a way it was used that didn't really correctly work with XCP-ng. So all in all, thanks to the community, the feedback you provided, was critical for us to be able to save that. So again, kudos to the community. Okay, that's it for backup. Let's talk a bit about hardware integration. As you may know, since few releases in Xen Orchestra, we are providing better integration between some our technological providers inside Xen Orchestra. So for example, in that case, about 2CRSI physical machines, the servers they are providing with XCP-ng pre-installed. We already had, like 2 releases ago, the fact that you could display fan speed, temperature, intake temperature, and so on and so on. And now in this new release, we are even able to fetch the version of the BIOS that is, let's say, available in 2CRSI servers with the current BIOS version you have. And so if it's not up to date, directly in your host view, you will have the version displayed with, as you can see, a small red cross and a link to download the latest BIOS. So the latest BIOS. So it's great because this means you don't have to remember directly how to do it. This is directly displayed in Xen Orchestra. And clearly, the ambition is to have more and more stuff like this right into Xen Orchestra, as it is in the end the central console to manage everything. As we connect to other software vendors or other hardware vendors, to gather all of this through API calls and so on, to be sure that without leaving Xen Orchestra, you're not missing anything. So that's where we are going, and 2CRSI is the first hardware partner we are working with to go in that direction. But clearly, in the future, we'll do that for more vendors we are partnering with. Okay, so let's switch to a new section, which is called Core UI. So Core UI is, in fact, a section merging the progress of, I would say, both XO 6 and XO Lite, because now the components are really the same for both. I mean, one development is meant to be done to be reused in both XO 6 and XO Lite. So when we create a new component, it will be in the core UI that will then develop into 2 different products. But this is really helpful because we are, avoiding duplicating any efforts and working really good on making the right components the right way to be sure it's fine without wasting time to duplicate the effort. So we improved the console view. So the components now got not just the console, but a side panel with opening the console in a new tab, going in full screen, sending the usual magic keys, also work with the clipboard and so on. And so this component was designed and now already integrated, we'll see just after, into XO Lite. We have also new language integrated in Xen Orchestra, and we are happy for PBO who contributed to that. So it just dropped, pull request with the translation, which is great because also the translation is worth for both Xen Orchestra and XO Lite. So thank you for that. And if you want to use Xen Orchestra or XO Lite with a language that is not yet there, feel free to contribute. You can expect next year some progress on this. We'll probably use a software that is dedicated to get contribution even more easy without even requiring to make a pull request on GitHub. So, expect some news about this next year. But still, thanks a lot. That's a great way to contribute. Maybe it doesn't seem a lot, but for us, it means a lot because if everyone is adding their own language, in the end, we have everything done in a very efficient manner. We just review it, fix minor stuff, and then we can merge it. And that's really cool. And that's, what is open source in the end? It's having the community assisting, and it's just not about technical code. It could be documentation, it could be language, it could be many, many things. So again, big thanks to the community. Let's have a quick overview on the different components we are doing. I won't enter in the details, but just to show you that we are working really hard to improve the existing UI on XO Lite and XO 6 to move forward to following the Figma we have about all the interfaces. So for the network, you could expect probably maybe early next year or maybe for the next release, but December, is not a very long month, we'll see, but the network management, where you will be able to manage all the network directly from XO 6 and XO Lite, obviously. So that will be really cool, and we started to work on the components to do that. So there's multiple components. We added some 404 pages, improved the user menu, added more links, for accessing the community really efficiently directly from inside the application, which is useful, so you don't have to search for it. We also add all the parts where we maybe cannot connect the data because, I don't know, whatever error happening, or if there's nothing. It sounds a detail, but it's really important when you build a UI to be sure that the user understands exactly what's going on. And if something is empty, it's not just a problem. Maybe it's just because there is no data, or maybe there is a problem, but at least it is clear. So that's why we are building all those components. So same story for not having the data, not having whatever. It's important to show it. So in XO 6 and XO Lite, now you could have access to the host console. So remember, in Xen, the host, what we call the host, is in fact the DOM0, which is a specific VM, but that's the VM having the API. That's the VM that when you reboot, it will reboot the physical machine, and so on and so on. So now we could even access this directly from XO Lite or Xen Orchestra, meaning that if you want to do maintenance, or if you lost, I don't know, SSH access or whatnot, then you could rely on this console to do your administration task. Let's move on now. XO Proxy, it's a welcome improvement of displaying the version that you have on the existing proxy. As a reminder, proxies are far more than just a tool to help you to spread the backup load horizontally, but it could also be used to distribute your infrastructure if you want to use it as a kind of a reverse proxy for your host without the need of dedicated network, VPN, and whatnot. You just put the proxies at the places you want, could be remote places, and then they will just be exposed, but not the inside of the infrastructure, and connect the central Xen Orchestra to all the proxies in a secure fashion. So they are really, let's say, more and more useful, and that's why we are improving also the user experience about the life cycle and updates of the proxies. Let's move to the REST API. So as a reminder, the REST API is now the foundation of also the new UI we are building on top of it. So this is truly becoming the future for Xen Orchestra, while the JSON RPC is I would say, the legacy. So if you want to make new developments, it's better to go through the REST API. This month, we added the capability to manage the virtual interfaces in your VM when you create a VM directly through this REST API. So this means now when you create a VM, you can almost manage everything. The last point is dealing with virtual disks. That will come for probably the next release. So it starts to be pretty complete, not just to fetch information, but even to create objects directly from the REST API. There's also a lot of work that is planned for next year about getting a better documentation for it, and also follow some standards like OpenAPI to get a Swagger and so on and so on. So that's part of the efforts we are doing. So expect that for maybe early next year, or at worst, let's say half of next year. Let's switch to air gap. So quick reminder, air gap means that you are in an environment where you have no physical access. So there's kind of soft and hard air gap, if you like. So soft air gap is you have a, maybe a proxy, maybe a strict firewall, so you cannot access everything. It's filtered, but still you can have access to internet. The hard air gap thing is you have basically no connection. And if you could install or deploy already Xen Orchestra in an air gap environment since this summer, you also had different challenges to update XCP-ng or to deploy XO, the hyperconverged solution. So we worked on that, and now there's we have a full documentation that is guiding you on how to operate in fully air-gap environment, how to get the updates, put them in, for example, in a USB key. We have a special script that helps you to install those updates without being painful. So you could continue to make all the life cycle of the application in a fully offline fashion. So if you're interested to know more about this, feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to give you the details. And now to finish the Misc section, which is basically all the small improvements on the existing UI mainly. So we added a new cool feature, which is able to block the migration and to unblock it for some VMs, because some customer added, for example, a way to allow or disallow VM migration. So this means that for some context, they wanted the VM to stay on one specific host, regardless what's going on. Even if, I don't know, you want to evacuate the host and so on, you will have an error and said, the migration is blocked. You decided that, so the VM won't move from this machine for whatever reason you decided to. Now, if you want to migrate it anyway, then you will be aware and you will have the capability to unblock it in the advanced setting. As you can see here, there's a toggle where you can enable, disable the migration for your VM. So pretty convenient if you need to really pin a VM without being able to move it, which happens in some cases. Let's talk about the maintenance mode with migration bypass. So the maintenance mode, as a reminder, is the fact that you can both disable the host, so disabling meaning the host won't be able to start any new VM on it, or to host a VM that will be migrated. So it will be considered like kind of offline, but without shutting down anything that is still running on it. And maintenance will also trigger evacuate the hosts. So now, if you do that and some VMs cannot move, you will be aware. And for block migration, we just talked before, you will have a message tell you, well, the maintenance mode didn't work on all VMs. Those VMs are blocked. You want to, bypass it and so on. So it's kind of combining those two features to both have the safety of having the VM not moving, combined to the fact that if you still want to move, being able to bypass it if you really need. So that's a convenient way to give you restriction without giving you too much work to be able to bypass it. We improve a bit the UI in details like trimming text to make it more visible. So it's a minimal change, but sometimes that really helpful to be consistent in the UI. A pretty big one is Xen Orchestra documentation was finally migrated from ViewPress, which is now no longer maintained since a bit, to Docusaurus, which is pretty well, that's the documentation we use already for XCP-ng. We made the migration for XCP like almost 1 year ago, but we didn't have really a lot of time to work on that migration for Xen Orchestra. So kudos to the team who really helped to make it internally. And now the entire documentation is more modern, and you can expect to have even more content in the future, as now it's based on a recent engine that is really easy to search into it and so on. So that's the same base for XCP. So really helpful, and probably the start of many new things inside the doc. We also improved host key issues with a more precise message on how to deal with it. That was an issue due to the size of the keys if you used an old version of XCP and upgraded since then. So that's one of the challenges, that when you have a very stable platform that people could upgrade and upgrade and upgrade and upgrade, maybe you have deprecated stuff, so you have to deal with it and being sure the user is aware about it. So that's all about this in this example, to tell you what's the problem and how to fix it, and a link to the documentation in details to be able to overcome when it's the case for you. We made some important fixes also on S3 remote usernames, where improper encoding could cause some issues. So this is fixed, and now it's really smooth. And the final thing, which is a pretty big one, in fact, is the support of cloud-based inits. Cloud-based init is, if you know Cloud Init for Linux, that's the same idea, but it is for Windows VMs. The thing is, it wasn't simple to make it, because it requires different stuff than Cloud Init. It requires to have a label on the partition and so on. So it was kind of an adventure to make this feature. We had to fork a library, we had to document it, we have to test it, and so on and so on. But we're really happy to help our users relying on Windows, and they want to make automation. Now it is possible, and it will be treated like Cloud Init in the same principle. You can inject configuration on your Windows template that will have cloud-based pre-install, and then it will use whatever you injected, like, I don't know, host name, whatever Microsoft thing I'm not aware about. So anyway, it is working now. We are really happy about it, because this is really helpful in many automation cases. And that's it for the release. So as you could see, it was a pretty big one. I started to speak really fast and not giving all the details, nor even opening the different blog posts. So there's many things to go to read and to discover. And in case you have any question or feedback, again, as we really love our community, feel free to go on our forums to just express if there is anything you want to tell about whatever new feature, feedback. Again, this is really let's say the way we work here, and thanks to that community, we could solve bugs, we could do quality assurance, we could test features, we could test many different kind of different architecture, even of kind of exotic hardware. So this is really welcome. And again, to me, the key of the success is not just to go with the commercial aspects, but it's to blend both the community and the commercial success to build a product that could work for everyone. So anyway, thank you for watching this video, and see you in December for the last release of the year, and see you there. Bye-bye.